I'm usually pretty critical and cynical about the Cybertruck launch, but that's mainly because I think there's a lot of excitement and a lot of hype surrounding it, and I'm trying to temper expectations and try to keep people realistic, look at energy densities, look at Tesla's current prices, and not get people too excited. But I feel like I've been so critical that a lot of people are convinced I want the Cybertruck to fail, or I just don't like the Cybertruck in some way, and I really don't want that to become the narrative of this channel. I guess I'm trying to preemptively defend Cybertruck specs being worse than people expected, but I thought it might be fun to take a break from all of those likelihoods and realistic outcomes and best guesses that I've been giving and just do a video expressing my best case scenario, like my optimistic view of the Cybertruck, which I don't often give, but obviously keeping it within the bounds of reality. So not trying to say oh, the Cybertrucks will be free and they'll all come with $1 million in the bed. No, I want to be realistic about this wish list, but just instead of constantly leaning on the side of caution and pessimism, for just this video at least, I would like to lean on the side of optimism and hope. So we could kick off my wish list with the start of some good news, which is that Joe Tegmeyer was able to catch some pretty big arrivals at GigaTexas this morning of Hydra parts, of course, of the 9,000-ton Gigapress, which we know is basically going to be used for the Cybertruck underbody. And the fact that they are arriving at the factory mid-January is somewhat of a good sign. So my next wish on the list is that means they can assemble the Gigapress within the next couple of weeks and hopefully start testing it and calibrating it within a month or so. So maybe by the end of February, close to my birthday, they can actually be cranking out Gigapresses. And even though the Gigapress is only one piece of the puzzle, the great news is Cybertruck doesn't have a paint shop to worry about, right? And we've been seeing lots of robots shipped over from Germany that are specifically meant to work on the Cybertruck assembly line. And once Tesla calibrates a way to crank out these exoskeletons, hopefully they could find a steel supplier and basically find a very simple origami approach to cranking out tons of exoskeletons and then just taking what they've learned from the 4680 Model Y assembly line, which appears to be up and running again based on all the 4680 Model Ys showing up in existing inventory, and just kind of for, the bottom structural battery pack portion, come up with a slightly beefed up version of that. So using 4680 cells and having a quad motor powertrain with rear wheel steering and then marrying that underbody to the exoskeleton, this means hopefully that Tesla would be able to start building gamma prototypes of the Cybertruck and then close to delta prototypes, and that way by summer, and according to Tesla's timeline, mid-2023, they could actually do some EPA tests, and that's when we would finally find out the range of the Cybertruck. And in my best case scenario, I'm gonna assume that maybe Tesla has figured out a way with their next generation 4680 cells to increase the energy density from the current state of 4680 cells, and found a way to ramp up production fairly quickly at their cell production line at GigaTexas. So maybe they have 1 or 2 floors just designated to the cheaper Model Y 4680 cells that aren't super energy dense, and then a couple other floors that probably cost a bit more money because they require high concentrations of nickel, but they have better energy density than the 2170 cells, and maybe through stacking multiple 4680 battery packs on top of each other, they could essentially stuff an over 200 kilowatt hour battery pack into the first generation quad motor Cybertruck. And they just decide that because they're so profitable with the Model Y and production is ramping for that in Texas and it's going well in Fremont, in Europe, and in Shanghai, that Tesla's just gonna let everybody convert their Cybertruck reservation into a higher priced quad motor, but full self-driving will be honored for everybody in order to increase the likelihood of current people's orders following through on their delivery, because they'll feel like they'll have an appreciating asset. It was over a year ago where they turned off the option for you to configure your Cybertruck, so that first 1 million reservations that were put in with full self-driving locked, honoring those for the just $7,000 or $10,000, whatever you had it selected to, would increase the likelihood of deliveries going through and less people canceling, even if the price of the truck is a bit higher. And thanks to the cost savings of the 4680 cell, along with the structural battery pack, the simpler factory layout of the Cybertruck assembly plant, and no paint shop to worry about, and I'm gonna guess, even in my wish list, that the interior is still gonna be stock black for everybody. There's not gonna be a white versus black interior. I don't think there's gonna be multiple tire options. It's just gonna be one tire for everything. But even if there's not much customization with the Cybertruck, in my best case scenario, in my wish list, Elon will stay true to his word in trying to make the Cybertruck affordable and try to prioritize making it cost effective compared to other electric trucks, and therefore to qualify for the federal tax credit, the quad-motor Cybertruck will start under $80,000, even though it will have a gigantic 200 plus kilowatt-hour battery pack, and thanks to the energy density of these new cells, along with the simplicity of manufacturing, such as simple design, plus the fact that it's the most aerodynamic pickup truck design you can basically have, perhaps Tesla could still hit that 500-mile range mark with a battery pack that big and a design as aerodynamic as the Cybertruck is. They also might be able to hit that mark by having the decoupling rear motor similar to the Tesla Semi, and even though this would be a very expensive truck and they probably wouldn't be profitable within the first years of production, I think it would be awesome if Tesla just decided that to maintain interest and to help deliver on the promises that we set forward in 2019, we're just going to eat that cost for the first couple years and not let the Cybertruck be very profitable, because we're making so much profits off of the Model Y, and that's going to become the bestseller in 2023. Plus, hopefully with the rollout of full self-driving beta being more and more accessible, Tesla can have some increased take rate on the full self-driving subscription, or maybe a handful of people still willing to drop the $15,000, and Tesla will just admit, we're profitable enough, we're not going to necessarily lose too much money on the Cybertruck, we're basically just going to shoot to break even, because we know in the long run, especially in the United States, pickup truck sales are by far the most common vehicle unit sold, so we don't want to price out too many people from getting the Cybertruck, and therefore that's why we want to keep prices low. So for the first year of Cybertruck production, it's like a $79,000 variant with 500 miles of range, which will basically kill a lot of people's interest in the Rivian or the F-150 Lightning, because as traditional as those pickup trucks look, they're going to have a much worse charging standard, and they're going to have much worse range, plus much worse durability, probably not as big a bed as the Cybertruck, not as great software or connected features as the Cybertruck will have, and it will be bizarre looking, and I'm sure a lot of people are still going to point and laugh and say this is the ugliest truck ever, but the specs, I think, would speak for themselves. It would be great if Tesla was able to remotely deliver on the insane specs that they promised back in 2019, and I think having a quad-motor Cybertruck with 500 miles of range that starts under $80,000 and can do 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds and tow more than the Rivian or Lightning could, plus incorporate with their stacked 4680 battery pack design super fast DC fast charging, and perhaps within the next year, as Tesla Semi continues to ramp at Giga Nevada, they can start building more mega chargers across the United States, and at these mega chargers perhaps enable, either a proprietary or megawatt charging standard for the Tesla Semi, and accommodate for the 1000 volt version of the NACS connector, so that Cybertrucks, when towing cross country, will be able to plug into mega charging stations that basically won't let normal Teslas charge there, but Cybertrucks, specifically with trailers, can. Like maybe when you activate tow mode on the Cybertruck and they can verify that you actually have, a hitch attached in a trailer that you're pulling, then it unlocks the route planning via software to say, okay, you can stop at these mega chargers and charge up super fast, and that way you can actually have a cross-country towing trip with an all-electric pickup truck that doesn't have to rely on a gas range extender and doesn't have to stop every 150 miles. Instead, it could stop every 250 miles or so. And if it's two stacked 4680 packs, then that could enable Cybertrucks to charge at V2 and V3 supercharging stations and maintain its peak charge rate for longer periods of time. So even if it's a V3 station, I know it would take a long time to charge a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack, but because there's so many cells in the truck, it could maintain 250 kilowatts for a very large portion of the charging session and probably not taper off until it's over 80%, which 80% with a 500 mile range Cybertruck would still be well over 350 miles of range, which can probably get you to the next supercharging stop. And thanks to the rear-wheel steering, it should be pretty easy to navigate that big old truck into these tiny supercharging stalls, but I would absolutely love it if Tesla had an updated event this summer and said, okay, we figured out how to mass produce it, and we're comfortable selling it for this low price, and we'll probably start with customer deliveries, and here's the efficiency numbers, and because of its aerodynamic design and the structural battery pack and exoskeleton approach, it's more energy efficient than all of our electric pickup truck alternatives, probably weighing in around 6,500 pounds, and I think that people would have a much harder time laughing at the Cybertruck if the specs were actually that good, and Tesla was able to come close to delivering on their promises. And then after a year of production goes by, then maybe they can offer the dual motor variant and use a smaller battery pack with only 300 miles of range, and that one can start, around $60,000, which would be awesome. Personally, even in my best case scenario, I don't see the single motor Cybertruck happening because Tesla doesn't even want to build a single motor Model Y in the United States. So my hope is just that they could get the price of the dual motor down in the future and hopefully even adopt a lithium iron phosphate version, specifically for a lot of people that are just like, yeah, I want a Cybertruck, but I don't need to do cross-country towing. Maybe occasionally tow a trailer across town, but if they could accommodate for a structural lithium iron phosphate battery pack in the Cybertruck, just with the basic dual motor system, that would still be a very capable all-wheel drive pickup that would probably get range close to that of what Rivian and F-150 Lightnings are getting, but they could likely charge sub $60,000 for it and basically undercut the competition. And in my view, like a 270-mile range Cybertruck that has supercharging access is way better than a 320-mile range F-150 Lightning, which you can't charge to 100% every day, and you're relying on Electrify America. This would be like the most competitive option in Tesla's lineup, and I think people would, over time, learn to love the design as I have. You know, even just queuing up this picture behind me of the Cybertruck, I was just admiring how iconic it is and how genius it is to come up with a design that is so rugged, so durable, and at the same time so aerodynamic. You know, this choice of materials for the exterior just makes so much sense for a pickup truck, and I really want it to succeed. I hope I'm wrong with my previous video speculation. I hope Tesla delivers on the range, gives us lower than expected pricing, and honors the price of full self-driving if you lock that in with your reservation in the past. Of course, as well as offering a steering wheel option for people who prefer that, but also the yoke for those futurists out there that are comfortable with the yoke. And I'd also love it if, because it's kind of a higher priced vehicle than the Model Y, they could build in the higher end graphics cards that are in the Model S and X, and therefore all Cybertrucks are capable of running Cyberpunk and any other Steam game you have, because they originally pitched it with that big 17-inch display. That would be a great device for playing games, and now that the Wireless Charging Consortium has announced Qi 2, it would be great if they also accommodated little, you know, MagSafe style charging pucks underneath that display so that you have a place to actually drop and charge your phone if there's just a couple passengers in the Cybertruck. But obviously it's a 6-seater and they want it to be a bench approach for the front row, so if those little MagSafe rings could fold back up underneath the display, that way if there's 3 people sitting in the front row, their legs aren't occupied by those wireless chargers. I just don't think that wireless chargers in the armrest like center console area are going to be as easy to see the phone like while you're driving or while you're charging. And that's what I currently love about the Tesla sexy lineup design, is that wireless chargers allow you to see your phone display right beneath the infotainment display, which is perfect. So ventilated seats on the Cybertruck would also be dope. Maybe they restrict that to the quad motor variant and that has the full premium interior with, you know, a display in the back, and then the dual motor in the future doesn't have ventilated seats maybe, or doesn't have the rear display for people sitting in the back. But oh, and I also can't forget midgate would be awesome as well if you could fold down that second row and maybe even have access to the frunk from the tailgate. That way you could fit 18 feet pieces of 2x4s. Sorry, I said plywood in my last video. I don't know what I was thinking. But just having a ton of internal storage space and modularity on the interior, basically, I think is really, really important because towing with electric pickup trucks is still pretty challenging. So if you can fit more cargo and payload just within the bed and the vault without having to tow, that's going to be way better for your aerodynamics, which in return will be way better for your total range. So that would be particularly appreciated on the lower end trims of the Cybertruck in the future, and I hope they can actually deliver on that sail storage design that they showcased back at the unveiling event. I haven't seen any of the prototypes with that recently, but still, just absolutely stuffing the Cybertruck with storage space and easy to access tools and things would be amazing, and I'm hyping myself up for the Cybertruck at this point now. So I guess your reaction to this video kind of dictates what your position is on the Cybertruck. Like, does all the things I'm talking about today sound reasonable or kind of unrealistic? Feel free to let me know down in the comments below, and thank you to everyone on Patreon supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again, and have an excellent rest of your day.